What is the value of leverage when it comes to financial freedom? That's the question I want to talk about in this video for a little bit. Leverage can take many different forms, and why would we even want leverage is the basic question we might want to address first. If you want some kind of financial beneficial outcome, leverage can basically get you there faster, and it can utilize resources outside of your direct control, like your time, for example, to get you to the destination that you're looking to reach. Let's go through some examples, right? Basic examples include in the real estate field, for example, instead of buying a house with cash, many people take a mortgage and then they might put 20% down, 10% down, 30% down, sometimes even 40% or more. But the rest they put on a mortgage, and that way they can afford a house larger than they could normally afford just buying in cash. And the amount that you take on a mortgage, if it's just the house that you live in, the interest is basically an additional expense in addition to the property taxes and utilities and all of the costs associated with owning a house, right? But let's say we acquire a rental property this way, and the mortgage, actually the interest especially, and taxes, all the expenses get paid for by a renter, either short-term or long-term rental. Then the mortgage actually is a form of leverage, and it allows us to build cash flow faster. And there are a few dynamics that work in our favor here. For example, if we choose a market that's growing, the price of the property would go up over a time frame of 5, 10, 15 years usually, while the value of the mortgage goes down, because in addition to paying interest, we would also pay a principal that's ideally also paid for by the renter, so it's not really coming out of our pocket. And a deal like this, oftentimes experienced investors find deals that are either cash flowing right from the start after all of the expenses, or they'll do it very, very soon after acquiring a new property. So basically, once the principal gets reduced enough, or let's say you're acquiring the property at a certain interest rate, let's say 5 or 6% today, maybe even a little bit more, depending on the specific conditions, and a year from now you're able to refinance it for 4.5%, or maybe even lower 2 or 3 years from now. The difference in the interest rate now increases your cash flow, and oftentimes you can also gradually increase your rent. So the cash flow grows over time, and the money that you used from the mortgage company actually allowed you to build cash flow faster. It's also known as other people's money. So that's one example of cash flow, right? Mortgage in the form of real estate investing, helping us grow faster. Other options include stock options, since we're speaking about options, right? In the stock market, instead of buying shares outright, you can instead acquire a position in a company through options, either by selling a put option first or by buying a call option to get long-term exposure. If you're buying calls, I would do it at least 1 year to 2 or 3 years into the future with the expiration, so you're not as exposed to short-term fluctuation, and you have more time to be right that the value of the company will go up. This works especially well if a company has corrected during market crashes, or mispricing of a company that's oftentimes more like temporary, where the underlying value of the company is strong, the industry is strong, future outlook is strong, but temporarily investors are discounting the value of a company. Then buying a leap call, as it's called, like a long-term equity appreciation position, can actually give you a leverage, and you get exposure to something close to 100 shares of a company by putting significantly less amount of money on the line. Some people also do this with margin, but standard margin is actually not that great. Options will give you better capital efficiency. If you want to use margin, you have to study it very well. You have to test with smaller account sizes. over years of time to kind of get a feel for how the margin really works. If you want to go into that, I recommend really studying portfolio margin, learning how that works well. But that's more of a very advanced mechanism of leverage. So I wouldn't definitely not recommend it to beginners. If you're more of a starter when it comes to financial investments and growing your cash flow or passive income, it is better to start with something like a mortgage or very basic options. For example, if you want to go with the option route, look into what it means to become an option seller, where you benefit from theta decay, as it is called, short-term loss of option value, while managing the risk and only doing it on companies that you are either ready to own at a strike price if you're selling put options, or ready to sell at the strike price if you're selling call options. Make sure you sell those a decent amount out of the money, so you're not just acting as a premium junkie, but you are actually making a smart financial decision, and you're letting math and statistics work in your favor. Yeah, those are two examples of leverage, mortgage, options. There are others, of course, in the business field. People also use the leverage of AI these days to automate tasks, or technology. They buy software which helps them scale their company faster or generate profits faster. With AI, you can sometimes automate workflows and achieve similar goals that otherwise were only achievable with employees. Employees or human staff, of course, is another form of leverage. You're utilizing the time of other people, and in exchange you pay them, of course. But if you get a good deal and you negotiate well, you find the right fit for the role, then the person will add much more value to the company than you're paying them in a salary. So that's another form of leverage where financial outcomes can improve. Okay, I think that's pretty good. We've covered three different types. If you have any questions of either of these forms, feel free to put them in the comments or reach out via DM. We'll be happy to help you. Thanks and have a great day.